Welcome to Loco, Gringo, Mexico, the place where we transform a tourist into a traveler, because you deserve to see more of the world than just what's in a guidebook. Each week, we talk with amazing locals who know the Riviera Maya and Yucatan like only a local can, and get them to share their tips and insights on the local scene, culture, and cuisine from a local's perspective. So, pour yourself a margarita, grab a comfy chair, and let's get the show going.
Hola everybody, this is Kay at Loco Gringo. Today I'm going to talk to a woman who, back in 2002, she read in a guidebook about Puerto Morelos a warning. And that warning was, if you go here, you may never leave. Well, 14 years later, she's still in Puerto Morelos. So let me introduce you to Catroina Brown. Hi, my name is Kay Walton, and I'm with Loco Gringo, and I'm really happy to introduce you today to Catrina Brown, who's originally from Australia and now resides in Puerto Morelos, Mexico, which is located south of Cancun. Hi, Katrina. How are you today?
Good morning, Kay. I'm feeling wonderful. How about you?
I'm great, thanks. I really appreciate the time. I really love that you have so much to tell, not only about your trip from coming from Australia to Mexico, but I want to share with everyone that Katrina has a great cooking school, the Little Mexican Cooking School, a wonderful little B&B called Casa Caribe, and a few other rental properties that she has in Puerto Morelos. So, Katrina, tell me, how did a girl from down under find herself in Puerto Morelos, Mexico?
It's really hard to explain that without going back to my backstory, because my whole life from the time I was born has been very curvy. I still don't know when I wake up each day if that day is going to change my life. Because it started when I was a kid. I was born in Sydney. My parents were in the theatre. We moved to Melbourne very quickly after that. Then we went to New Zealand. Then we came back. And then my father left. And then my mother changed jobs. And it's gone on and on and on like that for me my entire life. And for me, I eventually went to university and studied drama because I wanted to be an actor like my father. It was a bad decision. I did not like that lifestyle at all. And I met someone one day that my skills also were making things. All my life I've always tried to be constructive, to move forward. And to stay alive in the theatre, I had to make costumes for a living. Ended up working in the film industry for many years in the production area. And then another chance circumstance, I met the fellow who was going to be the producer of the Olympics in Australia, and we worked together doing major event management and big events that I was the producer for. And the most famous one of those, of course, is the Sydney's New Year's Eve celebrations. So I produced 4 years of that, including the Millennium celebrations. Yeah, so that's my skill, and it's been...
I'm impressed. I watched the Sydney New Year's celebration back at the Millennium.
If you got your magnifying glass, you could have seen me right on the forecourt of the Opera House with my walkie-talkie in the hand telling everybody what to do. Yes. It was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful job. And the next couple of years was to build up to the Sydney Olympics, and then I found I had nothing to do. And I started looking around. I wasn't sure that I wanted to keep doing that or where it was going. And I took a trip to New York to visit my niece and then came down to the Yucatan to explore the archeological region, because we don't have anything like that at home. We have a lot of other beautiful, beautiful things in Australia, of course, but I really wanted to try and understand this whole culture that I knew nothing about. And most Australians know nothing about Mexico at all. And so for me it was fascinating. I arrived after looking all around the Yucatan by bus into Cancun, decided I was not even going to stay there one night. And my little guidebook at the time, this was on January the 22nd in 2002, my little guidebook had one paragraph about Puerto Morelos. And it said what a charming little fishing village was, and it had a little warning in the last line that said, "Be careful, you may never leave." And I thought, don't be ridiculous. Don't be ridiculous. I'm going back to Australia in my fancy living in my beautiful house. Well, I was going to stay 2 nights and then go across to the Pacific coast. And then it went to 3 nights. And then it went to a week. And then I found an apartment to rent. And then I kept putting my ticket back and back and back, because you could do that in those days. it went back and back and back. And finally I couldn't. It was 8 months and I couldn't put my ticket back any further. And I was sitting in the coffee shop on the corner here in Amancia's famous little coffee shop, feeling so miserable that I was going to go home and had to get back into the rat race of earning the fancy living so you could pay for all the fancy things that you needed to make the fancy living. And suddenly this little light globe went on in my head. It was like a cartoon light appearing on the top of my skull that said, "You're a big girl. You can do what you want." And I went, "Oh yeah, that's right. I'm not going home." And so I ended up staying for 14 years. In that first 6 months, I bought 4 lots of land and I opened a dive shop because I saw the need for one. There was a real need for it because most of the dive shops were really run down and half-drunk people hanging out there in the afternoons. And then I learned how to dive after I opened the shop. That was fun. We had a great time doing that. We closed the other dive shops on the town square, which some of them have not forgiven me for, but the others went on and made their shops better and more successful. I sold the dive shop in 2005 because I'm not a person to sit still in a chair in a shop. It just drives me nutty. I need to be creating something, producing something, doing something inspiring for myself, something challenging. If it's not challenging, I'm just not interested in doing it. So I sold it, and it was really lucky circumstance for me, not so much for the people who bought it, but there was 5 months, just 3 months, I should say, 3 months before Wilma hit. And so I wasn't, it wasn't in the dive shop for that period, and I'd already built the first house.
Oh, can I stop you 1 second, Kat? I want, a lot of the people are listening, when we refer to, as Katrina had referred to as Wilma, she's referring to Hurricane Wilma, which was one of the worst hurricanes we've had in recent history, correct?
Correct. For us, it's a milestone. For everybody that's lived here, anywhere up and down the coast, you refer to before Wilma and after Wilma. It was a devastating hurricane for most of us, yes. Yeah,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to make sure because people go, "Who's Wilma?"
Who's Wilma? Well, I know that my name, often people say to me, "You're like the Hurricane Katrina," and I say, yes, in some ways, but I try not to be destructive. I try to be creative.
So after Wilma, I'm sorry, you were saying, so after Wilma?
After Wilma, I then went on to continue to build properties. I bought another place and did a full renovation. Then I built another duplex, and I had a lot of fun doing that. I've never done that before in Australia, so it's the first time I built from scratch. But it's the same skill as production management. You have a budget, you have a goal, you employ the best people you can possibly get to help you in that project, and you walk through it and manage it. I found it very much the same as the film industry or even theatre. So then the recession hit, and I was left with this beautiful duplex, 2 houses. So I moved into one of them and didn't know what to do with the other one, and I was sitting around one day with a girlfriend, and she said, "You're so good with food, Katrina. Why don't you do something with food?" And I was just poo. And then I thought, gee, I could open a cooking school. People would like that. And so I opened a little Mexican cooking school in my empty house. And the rest is history because it was such an instant success with the tourists that it's become a beautiful little business. And I love it. I'm passionate about it because it gives so much joy to people. It's wonderful to introduce the class every day and see a whole group of people excited about what is about to happen, about what they're about to learn. And it's great to see them at the end of the day going, "That was amazing." I like that feeling. It's really productive for me. And it goes back to during the New Year's Eve celebrations. When all the events happen, you can hear all the people around Sydney Harbour going, "Yes," and screaming and happy. For me, there's nothing more satisfying. And that's why I love the cooking school. And of course, we now have a guest house, and people love it. It's also got its own wonderful, charming character. I got to sidestep a little bit because after I wasn't diving anymore, after I sold the dive shop, I needed something to do. And I met this rather handsome fellow one day, and he said he was a rider, and did I want to learn to horse ride? And I said I'd love to. Now, I know what people are going to say. "You're Australian, don't you all ride horses and do surfboards?" But no, I was a city girl, so it was new to me. And so I learned to ride horses. And in the first lesson, they said, "This is going to be a polo club, Katrina." I went, "Oh, yeah, so what?" In the third lesson, they gave me a mallet to have in my hand to start hitting the ball. That was a pretty tough challenge, that first year. Okay, I was often crying because it was so challenging. But of course, it just made me more determined. And now I can travel to different places in Mexico and actually play in polo tournaments. So I was really happy about that achievement too.
So, I see on your website and that I saw that you had one of your websites on your Facebook page that said polo, and I'm afraid of horses. And so I'm always wanted to go. And then I'm like, nah, that's okay. Those big animals are just, I don't know.
It is incredibly daunting to learn, especially when you're not 12, I'll put it that way. Okay, that's what I used to say to my teacher. You expect me to ride this huge animal and hit a ball at the same time? Are you insane? It was really challenging. And they said, you just got to get in tune with the horse. You've got to get in tune. I had no idea what they were talking about then. But it's true. In the end, the horse gets through to you. This is what I'm thinking. This is where I'm going. This is what I'm unhappy about. This is what I'm happy about. And you start to have this thought connection with the horse that makes it all say, oh, okay, that's how you do it. So it was a revelation to me as well.
Now, and when we talk about polo and that, is that something that, like, if people are coming to visit the area, can they come and watch matches? Is it open to the public?
Yes, we have tournaments most of the year, and the tournaments are always open to the public. It doesn't cost anything to get in, and it's a fun day. You just have to find out when they are, which I can always tell people. And they do, El Rey Polo Club has its own Facebook site as well. So the big tournaments will be marked on there. But we also have small tournaments. It's just us and our friends on Saturday afternoons most weeks this year. We have the Abierto, the tournament called the Abierto de Riviera coming up on March the 5th. That is a completely closed event. It's just closed because it's already oversold, packed out. Very big event for the whole region, actually. There's about 8 polo tens from all over the world coming.
Wow, amazing.
Yes.
I didn't realize it was such a big activity in the Riviera Maya.
It's not. There are 2 polo clubs. There's one polo club in Merida and one here in Puerto Morelos. And Puerto Morelos has 2 to 3 actually major tournaments a year where people come from overseas and around Mexico to participate in. Whereas the polo capital of Mexico is in Mexico City, in a place called Tecamac, and they do a lot more tournaments there. It did surprise me there was even this much polo in Mexico. It is a lot more casual. Sorry.
No. I mean, I was really surprised because I knew that some of the locals like yourself and the cannons and things that they're involved with polo and riding and that, and I'm just really starting to learn that it's an up and coming thing, and it's more popular than people would probably imagine. For Mexico, we always associate diving and stuff like that as some of the activities of Mexico, and not necessarily polo.
Well, one of the other great things about polo for me is, well, several things I'll tell you about. It's all ages. I can be playing in a game and there'll be people from age 12 to up to 70, 75 playing in a match. And from different backgrounds. I mean, you have to be wealthy enough to have horses and keep it going, but here in Mexico, that's a lot less expensive than it is anywhere else. So it's a real meeting of different people. And of course, the people attracted to play polo, not to watch it, but to play it, are all driven by that same desire to be challenged that I am. So we have a lot of that in common. That man or woman standing next to you on a horse, they're going to want to do well and to achieve it and to master the sport. And that's always exciting. And sometimes a little terrifying too.
No, it's super interesting. Well, speaking of, you mentioned like polos for people of all ages. Now we talk, and I'm going to come back to your cooking school. Now, do you allow can people of all ages come and cook with you for the day? I mean, tell me a little bit about your cooking school.
We don't normally have people under 15 years old in the class because it's designed for adults. It has a lot of information in it. It's not a game. It's quite serious. You learn a lot. You learn about history and culture of Mexico. You learn about the geography. You learn about the influence of the Spanish when they came, what happened. There's a lot of things to listen to. I mean, it's really interesting and it's presented well. No one ever gets bored. But kids with the short attention span that a lot of children have, they would get fidgety, and that just disrupts it for everybody. We do, however, do private classes for families, and a couple of times during high season we do open classes for families with children under 15, and we just change the structure of the class specifically for those ones. We also do private classes in private houses as well.
Oh, wow. Great. Now, for your classes, we'll go to the adults. If in your classes, is it hands-on, or is there a chef showing technique? How involved do people get aside from the educational side of things?
Well, the chef runs the whole class. I come in the middle, say hi, welcome, and then introduce chef, and he runs the entire day. At the beginning of the class, he demonstrates, but he gets everybody up involved. On the big terrace, we have a big open-air terrace where the class starts. At the beginning of the class, they learn the history in the background, and then they get up and learn how to make salsas, different types of salsas and sopes or snacks, Mexican snacks. That's hands-on because you need a little bit of history at the beginning to understand about the chilies, about where everything comes from. Then you put it all together in a salsa. Then you eat that, and then chef takes you into the kitchen where it's extremely hands-on, creating a 3-course meal, which you then sit down and eat.
I haven't eaten yet today, so I'm kind of like, my mouth is already kind of watering, thinking, ooh, I could use a little munch.
Well, we have a brand new menu today, Kay. I don't know if you can make it up to Puerto Morelos, but we have a brand new menu that Chef Salvador created. It's called the Mexican Seafood Fiesta. So with a whole lot of different types of seafood and how it's treated, especially in this region, including over to Campeche, of course.
Now, how far in advance should people make reservations to participate in cooking classes?
At this time of the year, it's at least 2 weeks ahead. We're doing 3 to 4 classes a week at the moment, and they fill up quickly because it's a very busy time of year. During high season, during low season, the week before would be fine.
And how many people are in a class generally?
We don't have generally any more than 16. We usually around 12 to 13 people, and sometimes we do much bigger groups. We've done a class or incentive group at a hotel for 60 people. We've done 30 people for just in a hotel for other type group classes. But at the school itself, we don't go higher than 16.
Okay, great. No, that's wonderful. And it's been a while since I've taken a class, so maybe as we get into a little bit slower period of time, I can participate. I love to cook, and it would just always a good resource and always room to learn, especially about the history of some of the spices and everything that's used here in the Yucatan.
Oh, and the history of chocolate and, yes, all the drinks. It's all very interesting. I'll have to take a photograph of you doing that, Kay, to see it, so I can show it to people that you actually sat still for that long.
Oh, I usually sit still. It's just in front of a computer all day long, you know?
Yes, I do.
So you've traveled. Well, this leads to the question. Since you've got the cooking school, do you have a couple things for people, whether they're coming to cooking class or they're just coming to the area? What are a couple of the favorite dishes that you have that you say, if you're coming to the area, you absolutely have to try?
Oh, there's 2 things I'd say straight away. Chilies in nogada and Riviera negro. Chilies in nogada is a dish usually served in September around Independence Day because it's the colors of the Mexican flag. It's absolutely delicious poblano chili that's been stuffed with meat and vegetables or beans, depending on which recipe we're using, covered in a walnut and almond cream sauce and sprinkled with granadas. It's just the yummiest thing on earth. I just love it. And the other one, Riviera negro, is traditional for this peninsula. Traditionally, it's made with a black pepper mole sauce. It's not normal mole. It's like a pepper sauce. And in it is, it's been stewed, the turkey in it has been stewed, a leg of turkey. And what is basically a meatloaf with boiled eggs inside it is sliced up and also put into the stew. Now that sounds odd, but it tastes absolutely scrumptious, and that's one of my favourite things. In fact, when we go shopping in Cancun to Market 23, I always leave room for a little Riviera Negro at one of the cafes there.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite dishes as well. Now, can you tell me, do you have, a lot of people that I've talked to, I mean, obviously we all have a passion for the Yucatan and the Riviera Maya. You've traveled a lot around the world and in Mexico. Where is your favorite place? Is it Puerto Morelos, or do you have a favorite little place in the country of Mexico that you say, yeah, you know what, this is my one of my faves?
That's hard. Yes, I have traveled. I've been to 42 different countries around the world and about 170 different cities. This is a place I choose to live at the moment. I am hoping in the future something else will inspire me and challenge me and draw me to it the way Puerto Morelos did. My favorite spots in Mexico? Definitely this town. Definitely this town. One of the favorite things I like about it, sounds odd, but for me, after working all day and the stress and all the people that are in Puerto Morelos in high season, for me to go out to the Polo Club and sit on the back of a horse and walk through the jungle with nothing but the birds singing around me makes it my blissful spot in Puerto Morelos. Also, early morning on the beach here. There's nothing like the quietness as dawn breaks on the beach here. It just brings joy to your heart. There's nothing better than that.
You know, I really want to congratulate Puerto Morelos because I know recently it's its own municipality, correct?
That's correct.
And you're involved, and you're involved with the community a lot, and it's one of the great things that talking with you is that you're right involved with. I mean, you've been there long enough now. Is that you're seeing the progress and the changes come? Can you tell me a little bit on how it now is it becoming its own municipality? How positively that will impact the area?
As you know, Kate, I also work in promoting tourism to Puerto Morelos. I also work hard in the community to keep the sense of community we have. It's one of the things I fell in love with, and one of the things that I think is going to help prevent Puerto Morelos being like Playa del Carmen, that the people who live here are passionate about keeping it small and low level and keeping out people who have greed and no love for the town. Generally, the town spits out people that don't belong here, we find. But now is the changes in the region, the change in our municipality. We don't go to elections till July. Now there's chances for people to do things here that we're not going to be happy with. However, our new town council is made up of people that have worked in the community all their lives. They're not people from somewhere else telling us what to do or letting their friends come in. They're people that say, no, you can't put a building up like that. Or, no, you need to have parking spaces. You need to have green space. They're all on the new town council passionate about doing that sort of thing. One of the first things they did, Kay, did you hear about what the council did on Valentine's Day here? They made a free event on the town square right here in front of the ocean for anyone that wanted to get married. They could do so for free, same sex or not.
Wow, beautiful.
And it was beautiful. They provided an orchestra, they provided food. It was just a beautiful day. We are going to see a lot more bureaucratic things happening right now as the city tries to learn how to operate on its own. But I'm thrilled that we're going to get our own ambulance, eventually our own fire brigade, because we don't have that. We have firemen and no truck. It's like giving birth to a little baby. It's growing and it's learning and it's trying to expand and it's trying to be itself. For us, it's a very exciting town. I'm also on the tourism committee for the new council, so we're looking at ways we can help promote Puerto Morelos as a magic puebla. In the end, right now we consider Pueblo Encantado, and that means a charmed city. And at the end of the year, we're going to become one of Mexico's magic cities, which will give us a huge amount of advantages in tourism and promotion and help in a number of other ways with federal funding. So we're very excited about that.
No, that's wonderful. And I wanted to mention, and there's a lot of people that don't know, is that right off the shore of Puerto Morelos, it is a national marine park, correct?
It is the Grand Mayan Reef that runs from Cancun down further south to Playa and further on is a national marine park. That's correct. It's protected, which means that no water sports are allowed in this area, and it's one of the reasons that this is the only reef that is still beautiful. It got some damage during Hurricane Wilma, but it's come back from that, and we do as much as we can to protect it. And one of the ways to protect it, of course, is to protect the mangrove. Between the highway and Puerto Morelos is 2 kilometres, and 15 kilometres north and south is wild mangrove, full of crocodiles and birds and baby fish and all sorts of bacteria that's necessary for helping the reef to survive, because the water from the mangrove goes under the beaches, under the sea, and out towards the reef. It's very important for this community to keep that mangrove alive.
Now, do you have some tips for people coming to Puerto Morelos of not only how they can participate in the tourist activities, but some of the things that they can keep in mind to respect the environment?
There's a number of things in this town, yes, of course. Wear sunscreen that's biodegradable. Don't go swimming in the cenotes with any creams at all on. The cenotes are underground pools that we have a lot of in this region, and they're all connected to each other and also connected to our water system for our houses. So it's important not to wear any type of oils in the cenotes when you go. And one of the things that the community in Puerto Morelos is concerned about at the moment is that we've just opened, well, one of the hotels has, got permission from the Cancun government to open another dolphinarium. We consider them dolphin prisons. And if there's something we can call out to tourists to try and stop this barbaric imprisonment of these amazing creatures, is by not going there. Don't take your children there. Educate your children about how we can protect them. And that will really help the whole of us, all of us as well in Puerto Morelos.
No, I think that that helps everybody along the Riviera Maya, because we know that the dolphin areas are a bit they're very controversial, and there's a lot of us who just don't support them. And so I commend you guys for trying to keep that at bay as Puerto Morelos develops.
Okay, you know, the other thing that people can do if they come to town is help us help the community that does not live as richly as some of us do. I can tell you, go back a little bit, and I want to tell you the story about the charity that was founded for Puerto Morelos.
Oh, please, go ahead. That would be great.
As you know, Hurricane Wilma, here she comes again, in 2005, devastated a lot of this area. A lot of us, it took us about a year to get the town operating again properly, to get our houses back together, to get the tourism facilities operating so people could make a living again. And I'm not just talking expats, I'm talking the guys that drive the boats to do the snorkeling, and the whole infrastructure had to be repaired quickly so these people didn't starve. So it was quickly put back together, but it took us about a year before we really started looking around and going, now what else can we fix? It was a chance conversation one day for me in front of our little town hall with a fireman, and he said that they didn't have anything. Oh, what do you mean you don't have anything? Well, he was wearing gardening boots, number one. They didn't have any helmets. They didn't have any oxygen units. They didn't have any training apart from their original basic training. And I was having a party at my place at the time. Some girlfriends were down from Texas, and I told them about that over dinner that night. A week later, Barbara calls me from Austin saying, we've got 13 firefighting outfits for you. Where would you like them sent?
Oh, beautiful.
And I went, really? Is that how easy that was? I just had to ask. And so I went over to the Colonia, which is on the other side of the highway in Puerto Morelos, not the beach side, the other side, and visited the primary school. And they showed me through the school, which was pretty badly maintained. And then they showed me the toilets. All the toilets were full of feces. And I said, why is this so? And they said, well, there's 350 students in the morning and 410 in the afternoon school, and we've only got one pump and it's broken, so we only have enough water to flush the toilets twice a day. I went, oh. Went away, went for my cocktail down at the beach bar, and with all my friends, I said, listen to what I just saw. And there was a guy down the end of the bar who's always down the end of the bar, Randy. And there was always somebody at the end of every bar around the world, and Randy was always at the bar. And he said, well, Katrina, there's only one way to fix that. And he opened up his wallet, and he put down 500 pesos on the bar. And then everybody else at the bar put down money. Within 24 hours, they had enough money to fix that pump and put a new one in, and in 2 days we had it installed. And that's how we started the charity for Puerto Morelos, reaching out to help people that we had no idea were in so much need. I visited houses where 5 families would live in one little shanty house and share one bucket of a toilet. I've seen people with illnesses normally easily treated, but they can't afford the medicines. I've seen smart children not able to go to school because they can't afford the $20 fee for primary school. And so we saw a real need for the charity, which we started. It's called El Mundo para Puerto Morelos. It has its own website, of course, and we urge people to bring things for the schools, or medical equipment, or medical supplies for the ambulance, for the medical clinic, for all the families in need. I can always tell people their specific needs, but generally it's things that get used, bandages, books, pens, all sorts of things like that are used and thrown and destroyed. That they need more. They're expendable things. And so we've been able to fill a little gap. In Mexico, the government does look after the health and the education. It's all basically free. But the population is growing so much in this region that they can't keep up. The bureaucracy can't keep up with the maintenance and the supplies that are needed for such important things as the hospitals and clinics. So if people can bring something for the kids or for the clinics, that would be wonderful.
Oh, great. No, thanks. And it's great to know. Keep me informed and stuff, and maybe Loco Gringo can help out on a project that you may have coming up this year. We're always interested in giving back to the community and helping those who really can use the help.
Oh, that's great, Kate, because we will be having some big fundraiser to buy a truck for the firemen. It'll be a big one.
Great. No, let us know, and we're certainly happy to promote it for sure. So, Katrina, as we wind up today, I wanted, as we talk about Puerto Morelos, and I mean, I think it's an undiscovered gem in a lot of cases. I mean, it's always been for me. It's a place. There's Puerto Morelos, and I'm zooming one way to either one way to Cancun or one way back home. So I don't stop as often as I should. If you had to say 3 places that people should stop, and is to really say, you really come to Puerto Morelos, and these are the 3 things that you should, whether it's to eat, sleep, do, visit, what are your recommendations?
I recommend taking an hour and just lying on the beach down at one of the beach bars and enjoying the beautiful view of the ocean. There's nothing better than that. People tend to come to Puerto Morelos and just go to the places around the square. If they go a little bit north or a little bit south, there's a lot more to discover. It's actually quite interesting for visitors to walk around the streets where we all live, because a lot of people don't understand how expats live here, why we're not afraid, just to walk around the streets is really quite interesting for people. And there's so many restaurants now in town that I can't pick one out, and I couldn't anyway because they're all friends of mine. So there'd be something to say about that.
In terms of aquatic sports, is there something you would recommend for people? Was it divers or snorkelers? Do you say go out to the reef, or is there something else that you would suggest?
I think the reef is wonderful, but for me, the most unusual and interesting is a visit to the cenotes, which are down the route to cenotes. It's the same road that the Polo Club's on as well, but there are several now, really good cenotes down that road. And it's a really interesting way to look at something different. Okay,
great. Katrina, I really appreciate your time today. Now, if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you?
The best way to reach me is through the Little Mexican Cooking School website. And that's really, really easy because it's www.thelittlemexicancookingschool.com.
Great. Well, I really appreciate it. And if you can't find Katrina or the Little Mexican Cooking School, you can always contact us at Loco Gringo. We're happy to hook you up with Katrina, or you can email me, ask@locogringo.com. Katrina, thanks so much for your time today. I appreciate it, and I hope to get to visit with you really soon, face to face.
I look forward to that, Kay. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to Catrina Brown's tales of coming all the way from Australia and ending up in the little fishing town of Puerto Morelos. Puerto Morelos is really a little known gem south of Cancun, where some of the styles and flair of old Mexico still thrive. So I invite you to visit Puerto Morelos. You can find more information on our website at locogringo.com. For the Little Mexican Cooking School, please check it out if you want to come down and taste some of the flavors of Yucatan and work with Katrina and her chef and learn a little bit more about the cuisine that makes Yucatan cuisine famous. Well, have a great rest of the week. Talk to you soon. Hasta la vista.
Thanks for listening. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe. For links, show notes, and more information, head on over to locogringo.com or give us a call toll-free at 800-478-0081.
Porque se tragó la luna, estaba enferma la rana, su madre soba que soba, dedos de pluma la panza, pensó ranita que luna era una toronja blanca, y aunque la luna es de leche, la leche estaba cortada. Croa, croa, dedos de pluma, croa, croa, dedos de agua.